Estero, man, thanks for helping out with this course. I can't wait for everybody to see this and hear this. For those of you that aren't familiar with Estero, you should look her up, Esthero. You wrote 3 songs on Kanye's 808s and Heartbreaks, right?
Co-wrote, yeah.
And sang on some stuff. She's sung with Dre. She's Grey's Anatomy. You've done a couple of things in that.
I got a lot of film and TV placements and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing. I've known her since she was 18. We did a record together. And one of my favorite albums I've ever done. If you know anybody from Toronto, tell them you're watching Estero, and they'll go, "Oh my God, I love Estero." I do that all the time. When I get credibility with somebody from Toronto, I say I know you. You've sung with everybody from Dr. Dre. Tell the Dr. Dre story. And don't be shy. Let me help you, because she's not going to say this, but she's got. I don't know if you describe it as perfect pitch, but her timing is immaculate. She can sing something, leave town, come back and sing it again without hearing it and make it flange. It's like nothing you've ever seen. So tell the Dre story.
I was in the studio with Dre. I dropped by. I was just hanging out. And he was working on something, I think for the game or for him. I think it eventually ended up being like something that the game released or whatever. But I was just hanging out, and I heard this part that he was doing. It was called Makeup Sex. And I remember it because it was like, no apologies necessary. Let's get in that missionary. It's time to wind down and get ready for some mood. And I was like, I had an idea, and I just looked at Dre and I was like, would it be okay if I sang on this? And he was like, go ahead. He's really lovely. He was just like, yeah, go ahead, go try something. So I, in my mind, before I go in and do a vocal, I'm a little bit Rain Man about it. And in my head, I can kind of calculate how many stacks I'm going to do of a lead, how many harmonies I'm going to do, how many moving harmonies I'm going to do. And I like to give an engineer a break, and generally kind of before I walk into a booth, go like, open up like 16 tracks. Like I do a little, so that they're ready to go, and they're not scrambling, and they know what else they need to shut off if they have to. So I walked in, and when I double, I do this thing called, I would call it doubling blind, which is a lot of people double their vocals and have the previous vocal playing at the same time.
In their headphones.
And I find that actually extremely distracting. But I'll sing a vocal, so, I was like, like, no apology necessary, let's get in the missionary. And then I'm like, okay, 2. No apology necessary, let's get in the missionary.
So you weren't even hearing the previous one.
No, and I'm just like, next.
And it was in perfect time,
so I did,
perfect pitch.
So basically I got to about 4 or 5 of them, and I see Dre walk over to the engineer, and the talkback's not on, and he just kind of goes like, 1 second. And I knew what he was doing, because most people aren't used to people who are doubling blind. They're always like listening back to the one they did. And he said, I saw him he wanted to play it back to check it. And before he leaned over, I just, my ego, I said, if you're checking to see if it's going to be okay, like I have to do more than 4, because it's going to to be so perfect it'll phase. And he got this like look on his face, like whatever, like ego, okay, like whatever. And he's like, and I saw him press play, and then I just saw his face go like, and then he was like, continue, and then later on, Exhibit came in the studio, and it made me so happy. I was like really honored, because Dre was kind of like bragging about it. He was like, man, like, how you do like your exes? She's like, they're perfect, but like she's not even listening to the one she did before, like, and it's really just a party trick. I think ultimately, people grow up and getting used to the idea that you're supposed to have either one ear on or one, or both in the headphones. But for me, it's not like a superpower so much. The part of it where my pitch memory and my timing, my memory of my muscle memory of what my voice is doing in each vocal, that is maybe the skill. But as far as not hearing it, it's actually easier. It's too hard for the brain to listen to what you did before and listen to what you're doing now.
A normal person, even a little bit, would be like give them some advice about how to double vocals and how to stack 16 tracks of backgrounds. I mean, have you always done it that way?
Yeah, I think it's different for each person. I know that from the moment I was in a studio starting to double things, which I'm not generally a fan of. I don't like to double lead vocals very often, and that's just my particular production style, stylistically, and the kind of music I like, I find that lead vocals sound bigger on their own anyway. I like to just throw a bunch of reverb on everything. And then for me, the stacks I like to do are on background vocals or like a couple words on things. But I know that from the beginning, being very young and early experiences in studios, people were always wanting to play the other one back. And I'd be like, can you turn it off? Because when it's on, I go pitchy. I can't, because, you know, and so I don't know if that's just finding a level. So for some people, they need it there as a guide. And I would just suggest keeping it extremely low. So if you're there for guide for timing or the length that you hold a note or whatever. But a lot of the times doubling on lead vocals, it sucks all the character out of it. So I really keep it for big stacked background vocals and stuff like that.
So in general, when you're stacking background vocals, do you like to do root, third, fifth, or something in that, and then do 4 notes of each, 2 left, 2 right?
It depends. So I generally will do, say I have a lead note of a harmony, right? Like the main, I'll do.
So that would be the same as the tonic, what you're calling the lead, or would it?
No, it's just like probably the first third or whatever. That's whatever. Okay. I'll do. It depends what the section is, or it could be the lead. It's just it's usually like the third of whatever the lead vocal was. Gotcha. But I'll do the main note that I want everyone to hear. I'll do sometimes 4, sometimes 6. If I'm doing 4, I'm generally malting them, and if I'm doing 6, it's so that I can have 2 on each side and 2 up the middle. Okay. Is kind of how I like to do things, and then I will keep that main note. I'll do 4, and I'll keep everything in the middle. And then when I do the third above that, like the next high harmony, I usually do same thing, 4 to 6, depending on what the situation calls for, because that's my thing, is either I like to go wide, and usually actually I like to do I call it like a 45-degree angle. So if I do 2 and 2, I really very rarely do hard pans. I do like a here to the kind of to the right, kind of the right. And then kind
of to the right.
Yeah, the right and to the left. The highest harmony, I put at the quietest volume, and I usually do 4 to 6 of those depending on how smooth I need it to be and how high the note is for me, because more will obviously hide any mistakes. And then a low, whenever I'm doing the low harmony underneath, which anything low, I usually only do 2 of those, because that low...
And you like to pan those more towards the middle?
I'll do the slight angle as well. But yeah, usually middle, because that's the thing, is when you get into, it depends on the vocal, because when you get into notes where if you can do it perfectly and everything's in your range, you can get that sort of perfection, and it's okay to split them up. But for me, when things are slightly different and they're noticeably off, the more you separate them, the more you're going to hear that. So it's better for me to kind of like just keep them in the middle. But the low ones I generally only do 2, because if you do any more than, and sometimes 1, if you can get away with 1, because I'm so chesty in here and warm, anything else gets really muddy, like really, really muddy.
Let me ask you something. Do you approach, like, say, because you do, I mean, I've mixed stuff for you in every genre. Do you do backgrounds a little differently, like, say, for a rock thing, where they're not, like in some R&B things, the background vocals become the lead, and then the lead ad-libs around that. So that'd be one set of vocals.
Exactly.
And then like, say, in a rock song, the lead stays the lead, but you just get a couple of small notes underneath.
Exactly. And those, like on kind of more like punk rock sounding tracks, I deliberately, like if I'm doing something that's got an R&B or kind of like shot, like sexy time feel or whatever, I try and make that as tight as possible. It's super stacked, it's super sheeny. And then if I'm doing something that's like a little more punk rock or full of character, it'll just be like 1 harmony, and I'll usually pan it to where it feels right, you know what I mean, to give it. But yeah, they're usually, and I'll intentionally kind of do them not perfect. Like I feel like especially rock and roll is about the imperfection of it, you know, and punk rock it's cooler, and it's more about the tone that you're getting, you know, and capturing the character and getting that performance.
When you're recording, I watch your face and you just go to another place. Not all engineers can handle something like that without destroying the moment, trying to get the technical stuff right, what are the qualities you look for in an engineer that can help that can enhance your performance and
Okay.
record it? Obviously, being able to record it technically is a given, but
Yeah. Number one is presence. Like staying with me and being as invested. Because for someone like
man,
me,
say that again. I
be
think
like
that's-
as invested as
yeah.
I am, and that's a lot to ask of somebody who didn't write the music. But the fact is it's like how your sound guy when you're touring live is like the other member of your band. My whatever engineer I'm working with when I'm doing vocals, especially really emotional stuff or whatever, like you're an extension of me. And so I need you to stay with me because I'm often doing things that are extremely emotional, that I'm really attached to and invested in emotionally. And so there's nothing worse than being with an engineer and I'm just trying to get it out. And it's especially if things are going really well.
Yeah, you don't want
and
to
I'm
stop.
like, back it up to the second line. And they're sitting there going, which one was that?
Oh.
And I have to, or if I say, it was the line like, patience, I need you to be. And they're like, where is that? And I think to myself, like, I've
It just
sat
destroys
here.
everything,
Yeah,
right?
I'm like, why are you not here with me, listening to me? This is going to take so much longer. And so for me, there's nothing worse than an engineer that's just here to push buttons and space out. Like, I want you to be a member of my band temporarily. I want you to participate with me. So that's my favorite thing is when I get engineers that are like on it, they're ready to go, they're invested with you, and they're like, especially even when they're feedback, they're like, wow, that line was really cool, or like, you might have been slightly pitchy, or that's the number one quality I look for in an engineer, is somebody who's just present with you the whole time. And it's a lot to ask of somebody, but it's the nature of the game, right?
You guys that want to earn a living doing this, I'd rewind that and see the passion with which she said it. She's there's different types of people that come into a recording studio to do vocals. Some like to be led, and some like to do the leading. And in your case, you always have it's like a juggling act. You've always got six little balls in the air juggling. When you don't get to control when things stop, they all just hit the ground, and you got to start all over again. And so you guys sit down with the singer before she even starts singing or he even starts singing or rapping, and get a feel for how they work, and just be candid. And if you're a new guy starting out, don't try to fake it. It won't work. I tried. It didn't work for me when I first started. So just be candid. Just say, look, I haven't done that many sessions. I need your help. Can you kind of be patient with me? And you would give them a
I have
wide
a
latitude.
shorthand. I usually walk into a room with an engineer and I'm like, here's my shorthand. If I say, okay, like if I start doing a stack, right? And I want to do them quickly. If I say, okay, or next, that means next one. If I say, again, that means erase what I just did and I want to do it again. Like
That's
I have
cool.
these things where I'm like, one more time. If I say one more time means I hate what I just did. I also really appreciate an engineer who will listen to me when this is a big thing for me. I'm a Capricorn, and I'm also from a side where I'm generally producing. I'm not just singing. I'm like producing a track.
True.
A big thing for me is that I hate clutter. There's too much to choose from. And I'm confident enough in my ability that if I didn't get it, that I will at some point. And I know a lot of the times when I say erase, a lot of engineers secretly aren't erasing because they think that I'm going to come back in the room and want to maybe grab something. And I already know, I'm pretty confident
Been
about.
doing it a long
And
time.
to me, it just like creates this clutter, and if I didn't trust me, I'm going to be able to do it better again. So that's the thing is like, listen to your singer when she's like, if she says erase, just erase it. Like, just let it go. I like things to be clean. I don't want to sort through a big old mess. And I don't want to fool myself into thinking that I might have gotten it when my instinct is pretty correct and knowing like, I know I didn't nail it yet. So let's just,
You're always singing. You're always in a studio of some sort. So, I mean, I've learned things from you back when we were recording. That was like in the 90s and stuff. That was fun, right?
It was a good time.
Hey guys, find yourself in a stereo and then impress that person, and then also learn from them. We're here as a service industry. We're no different than a barber, a waiter in a restaurant, or any other service industry. So the way to get to the top is by giving good service to that person, And when you run across a special one, you're going to try and keep that person in the camp. So it's a good way to get job security too. And I can tell you so many times when I've talked to my friends, and you ask them how they got started, they were recording vocals for a star, and then they did that really well, and then that sets up a kind of a psychological thing. If you do one thing well, so next thing you know, they're liking the rough mix. Next thing you know, the rough mix on the radio. And next thing you know, you're Manny American. It's just that simple. So everything in our world has a purpose, and everything can lead to something else, or it can just as easily be the last day of your career. So it's your choice.